Yeah, they tell you that you should quit trying. You were too small, that you were too young. They tell you the chance is too slim, the world is too big, but you say how come? I'm ready to light a new fire, raise a new flag to cross a new sea. And if I'm ever the one in your way, then put your head down and run right through me. I keep settling for so much less. Don't take what's given, just demand what's next. So we didn't see before, so we get out of here. Plot twist that we didn't see coming. We're looking for an open door, so we didn't see before. How will we get out of here? Well, we'll never stop running.
All right. I'm not muted this time. I made sure. All right. How we doing, y'all? All right. It's gonna be a shorter stream today. I do have some work to do, but I do want to kind of get my thoughts out on this game and a couple of other things, and then we'll be on our way. Hope you guys have a good rest of your Sunday before we get back into the week here. But yeah, I want to talk about a few things that I thought Bulls did well, but I'm always going to be nitpicking with this team, unfortunately. So I'm always going to be complaining about something, because I feel like that's just how it is this season. That even if the Bulls are doing stuff right, I gotta start complaining. So, yeah. But we're gonna talk about a lot of things that I thought were done well in this game first, and then we can go into some of the extra stuff after that. So, what's going on, Skokes? Good to see you. Yeah, I want to talk about a few things here with this team. So, first off, I want to say this. I want to say that I think Patrick Williams has done a very good job since coming off the bench. I know it's only been 2 games, and obviously in these games they've both been wins, but I'm gonna praise him for what he did tonight again, even though that he didn't really score a lot. I thought that he was overall playing really well and was having a big impact on the game, even though that he wasn't necessarily scoring. I do think that he should be getting more shots in general. Now, that could be a whole discussion about, how he plays with DeRozan and how he kind of fits into that second unit. And, he may actually be that third option in that second unit, even though he should be the second option. But, it seems like Kobe White might be the second option in that second unit. But either way, I do think that Patrick Williams had a very, very solid effect on this game. He looked very aggressive with almost everything that he did. His 3-point shots that he took, in my opinion, were very, very confident. No, it wasn't a lot of that catch and think type of thing that I always kind of harp on him. I don't want to see Patrick Williams just kind of catch it and just think about it. It's either you catch it, you drive hard, catch it, you pass it, or catch it, you launch that 3 confidently. He didn't do that today, right? It's all about just, he caught it, launched it, right? That was really good to see. And I want to praise Kobe White. I think Kobe White had a very good game in this one. He started off the game having a very, 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 very bad, start to the game. He had 2 straight turnovers, I think, and 2 pick and roll possessions. And I was like, oh my God, that's not good to see. But he recovered very nicely. And it was a big spark plug in that second half offensively for the Bulls. Obviously, the 3 of 5 shooting from 3 is huge with Kobe. He needs to continue just launching those threes when possible, and not really look to turn it over as much, because he picked up these 3 turnovers like that. So don't look to dribble, just look to shoot, just score the ball, because that's what you're doing. CHGO, shot full of people overreacting to Winslow. Yeah, that's unfortunately the life of CHGO and their fan base over there. I don't hate CHGO. I love what CHGO does. I'm a big fan of Will Gottlieb and Mark over there with their Bulls coverage. I will say, though, that I do think that Matt Peck is the definition of a Bulls fan, right? Where his entire day and his mood depends on if the Bulls win or lose, right? And he's either completely depressed for the rest of the day, or he's feeling great. So yeah, I'm not shocked to see that CHGO is a little bit, overreacting to 2 wins. I'm not going to overreact personally. I'm going to point out some good things with this team that I think should be looked at, but I'm also going to be pointing out some things that I'm just like, yikes, this can't continue. And we're going to really dive into it with all that stuff. Matt and Dave are cool, but even still, the chat can be too helter skelter. Yes, I agree with that. I think Dave is overall pretty he's kind of like neutral, and I appreciate that with him. But yeah, the chat with CHGO, I've realized very quickly that the people that they go after, or the people that they target, their target audience is the Bulls fans that aren't necessarily thinking a lot about the game itself. There are a lot of the fans of that. They're like, oh my god, did we win or lose? Oh my god, did this player play bad or did this player play good? It's all about just like the kind of surface level, right? Which in theory, it's probably best because that's how you grow your audience, right? A lot of people, even the people that, someone like me, for example, that kind of dive deeper into the game, right? We can understand surface level type talk, right? So that's how their target audience is definitely a lot better, and that's the reason why they have a bigger audience, and that's the reason why they get this type of reaction. I will say that there is some good stuff with these 2 Bulls wins, but there's a long way to go, and they got their hands full still. 23 games, idea is 23-0. You're not gonna go 23-0. Well, you're down to 21 games, and you've won your first 2. Good start. But yeah, there's some stuff we gotta make sure we keep in mind. Hence, Brooklyn shot horrible from 3-point range in that game. That's not gonna typically happen against any opponent, right? And in this game, the Wizards also shot very poorly from 3-point range. So, this is the type of stuff that it's like we gotta keep in mind moving forward with this Bulls team. So I talked about Patrick Williams, talked about Kobe White. I'm gonna go to one of my negatives right now, which is Ayo Dosunmu. I think that right now with Ayo, he had a very good game against the Brooklyn Nets coming off the bench. In this game, he wasn't as good. I thought that he was picking up some fouls that were very unnecessary. And I do like that he was shooting those threes, but it seemed like he was kind of a little bit out of control on both ends of the court. But not too much that it really negatively impacts the team, but it's something just to, keep watch of as this new group is officially being formed, right? It's something that I think that the reason why P. Will and Ayo got benched is it's for a lot of reasons, which we're going to get into, but obviously one of the biggest things is to see how Patrick Williams and Ayo Dosunmu kind of play with a little bit more responsibility on their hands and not playing the starting lineup. But I also think that what's interesting is I do think that they intentionally did this just to kind of see for in the future. They're running lineups right now that involve, you see that Zach and Vooch are next to Ayo, Kobe, and P. Will, and then you see DeRozan and Drummond next to Ayo, Kobe, and P. Will, right? I think this is honestly the front office trying to get a look at, okay, if we're going to be keeping anybody, let's see who we're going to keep. I've always said that you keep Zach out of the big 3, but this is just them kind of figuring out, all right, who are we keeping, who fits well with each other, who's got to go, right? And this also involves young players too, because obviously Ayo and Kobe White, they're going to be restricted free agents, and they're not guaranteed to come back, right? So yeah, it's something that I think the front office is taking a look at, and everyone's being evaluated. So keep this in mind as we move forward with this squad, because I think that this is a big evaluation process right now going on. I don't mind it. I think they need to do it. I think they should have been doing this, but we'll see. Not sure exactly what they're thinking right now. So yeah, Ayo, kind of a negative. He, I like the 3-point aggressiveness, but he's got to play a little bit better. Some fouls, that I just sort of like, man, weren't really necessarily fouls, but he did get 2 steals. So defensively, he was overall still pretty solid, which is something that we can hang our hats on with Ayo Dosunmu. Now, big positives from this game. Zach, in 2 straight games, has looked phenomenal, right? And this is, in my opinion, it's ever since Patrick Beverley told him, look, don't look to pass. You're not here to be a passer. Don't don't start thinking like, okay, I gotta become this, playmaker for this team. Look to score. You're an elite scorer. That's your job. We're defining your role right now as elite scorer, and he's come out and been an elite scorer. 32 points in his last game, 27 tonight. Great, awesome. I will talk about Zach's shot selection though in a second here, but overall it's good to see that he's in 2 straight games looked very solid. And mind you, I mean, he was being guarded by Mikal Bridges in the Nets game, and in this game, probably a little bit of an easier matchup, but it's not something just to kind of scoff at, right? This is good to see from Zach. DeMar DeRozan finally looks a little bit more like himself, right? He's been dealing with his leg and hip issues, right? But he looked a lot more like himself tonight, which is obviously something we need. Getting to the free throw line, I think, is extremely important for DeMar DeRozan because he is a mid-range shooter and doesn't shoot threes. So if you're going to be a mid-range shooter, you got to get to the free throw line. This is more typical DeMar DeRozan type numbers at the free throw line. But yeah, good overall game by DeRozan as well. Nothing to really talk about. Vucevic, I thought, had a very overall solid game. I thought it was a little bit of too much of a posting up in the first half, right? Hence why the Bulls sucked in the first half offensively. But he was launching threes, which is good, right? I want to see a lot more of this. Not the greatest shooting night. I do think he missed some gimmies at the rim too, but we saw him in the second half, in my opinion, look a lot more effective in the pick and roll than we did in the first half when we were posting him up too much. But solid game from him, another double-double. Only 1 assist, which kind of shocks me, but nothing to really complain about. The Bulls' big 3 in that first half, they basically carried him. I'm actually gonna say that it was honestly Levine and DeRozan that carried them in that first half because nobody else could really score except for Vucevic here and there. Patrick Williams hit a 3, and then I don't know who was the other person to score in that first half, but it was only 2 points. So it was like 5 points that were not scored by DeRozan, Levine, or Vucevic, which was kind of odd to see. And it was a serious issue. Just kind of, I think it was actually Drummond, if I'm not mistaken. But it's good to see that the big 3 look a little bit better together now. And Zach is obviously looks like he's really taking into that role of like, all right, I'm being a scorer, and I need to score at elite level. If he continues this, then there's nothing to complain about, right? We can't be upset if he continues this level of play, which is what I've been expecting from Zach since once he got officially healthy. And last but not least, we need to talk about this, guys. The Bulls defense the past 2 games has been very solid. Now, I do think the Brooklyn Nets, we kind of got a little bit lucky there because they just could not hit a shot from 3-point range. And they have a bunch of shooters on their roster, right? And they just could not hit a shot. Guys coming back from All-Star break, it's kind of expected there's going to be some rust. I did not expect that level of rust from Brooklyn, right? But if you're not aware, Brooklyn just put up 127 points against Atlanta. So as you can see, that sort of poor offensive performance that we saw against the Bulls by Brooklyn is not something that is normal by Brooklyn, right? So you can kind of take this one or two ways. It's either that the Bulls defense was that good, or it's that Brooklyn just completely sucked that night. I'm going to lean towards that Brooklyn sucked that night. I'm going to still give credit to the Bulls defense, but I'm going to say that Brooklyn kind of did suck that night. Now, the Bulls in this game, they only give up 82 points. They give up 87 against the Brooklyn Nets. They give up 82 today against the Wizards. That's good. This, to me, is a little bit more impressive because the Washington Wizards were in this game. You're facing Bradley Beal, who is still pretty solid, even though he might not be in all-star form. Bulls did get lucky without Kristaps Porzingis playing. I do think that did help, but I thought the Bulls did a fantastic job on Kyle Kuzma all night. Kyle Kuzma was being forced into some of the toughest shots I've seen him have to take this season. A lot of like these little mid-range, kind of floaty shots, a lot of fadeaways, right? A lot of off-balance looks for Kyle Kuzma. That's huge, right? That's something that if this Bulls team can continue with, that's huge for down the stretch. And we saw that stat that since January 24th, the Bulls defensively have been the #1 defensive team in the NBA. So the defense, as I've been saying, the defense has been perfectly fine. I can't be complaining about this Bulls defense from here on out. They came into this game ranked 6th defensively. This just boosted their numbers again, okay? So I'm aware that people are going to continue to say that this Bulls team is just bad defensively, but we have to just be real at this point. The reason why this Bulls team has lost games is not because of their defense, okay? Their defense came into this game 6th defensively, okay? The issue has been their offense, which is still ranked 24th, and even after today's game, I still think that goes down, right? their offense only put up 102 points against a Washington Wizards team, which I don't believe is that good defensively, right? Where's Wizards? Yeah, they're 18th ranked defensively. So this is still overall pretty bad when it comes to the Bulls offense. So I gave you the good, I'll give you the bad here. The Bulls offense is just way too inconsistent, and I'm going to go yet again back to what I've been saying this entire season, which is the Bulls continue to play this 90s level play style. That it looked a lot different in the second half, though, right? The Bulls in the second half looked a lot better when we put it all together, right? So here's a shot chart for the Bulls. Now I'm aware that a lot of these mid-range looks are DeRozan, and if there's anyone that's going to be taking mid-range, it's going to be him. So I'm not going to complain too hard about him. I still don't think it's a good idea, but I can kind of live with it. Like all these shots here, right? This is just too much, in my opinion. But this is a lot of in the first half, right? We see a lot of these mid-range shots in the first half that were just, in my opinion, just completely unnecessary. One player that I gave Zach his credit, right? But in my opinion, he did take too many mid-range shots in that first half. It took 5 by my count. You can argue about this one here, but to me, this is too many. Now, I'm fine with this shot because he tried to drive on this shot. He didn't get the drive and decided to step back and shoot it. This one was fine, but it's these shots right here, which I'm aware that he made, that in my opinion can be limited, right? We don't need to take these sort of shots, and he only took 1 3 that first half, which in my opinion is just clearly not enough, right? He needs to be taking at bare minimum 4 threes and a half, right? And he only took 1 in that first half. Second half for Zach was, I think, a little bit better, right? Still some mid-range. I'm not going to count this one, but this right here, in my opinion, is just not necessary. Better 3-point shots, obviously. He still attacked the paint, didn't make any, but this is good. Like, he still needs to attack the paint no matter what. But, yeah, we can limit this right here. And to me, this is also part of the reason why the Bulls in the first half, okay, they kind of struggled offensively, right? I'm aware that Zach was on fire tonight. Like, he was hitting these shots, but if these are threes instead, this team looks a lot better, right? They have a little bit of a better first half in terms of offense. So we see here in the summary that the Bulls offensively, they weren't exactly amazing, right? We see it was 25 and 22 points scored in the first and second quarter. That's 47 points, okay? That's too low in today's game. Now, luckily, the Wizards weren't exactly that much better, right? They also were having struggles to score, which is, part of it is Bulls defense, but also part of it is that they were also shooting bad in general from the field. So, it was all right tonight. I'm just aware that if, let's say, we're facing a better team, this sort of offensive first half does not cut it, right? This is an offensive first half that was just not anywhere near what it should have been, okay? Now, second half, this offense was a little bit better, 27 and 28 points, which is obviously better than the first 2 quarters. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, that's not that big of a difference. Like, it wasn't a 30-point quarter. The way I look at this is that I don't really think about, 27 and 25, that's a close quarter, okay? Let me explain it to you this way, okay? If you win each quarter by 4 points, okay? We're just talking 4 points, right? You win the game by 16, right? If you win each quarter by 4 points, you win the game by 16. That's how much of a significance it is to score as many points as possible in a quarter, right? Because if you win each quarter by 3 points, right, you win the game by 12. That's the reason why analytics are just in better shot selection, shooting threes, getting better shots, more efficient shots. That's the reason why this matters, right? Because sure, we may be looking at, quarter 1 and quarter 3 as similar quarters, but in the end, that's a difference of 2 points, and that matters at the end of the day, right? So even if you just win each quarter by 2 points, you win the game by 8, right? These quarters where instead of scoring 24, and you could get to 28, that matters, right? Those sort of quarters matter if, in the grand scheme of things, right? You're winning a quarter by 4 points or 4 more points, that significantly matters. So I'm big on looking at this like this is a better in general second half. And I even had a tweet go out that I thought was extremely important to look at here. Okay, the Bulls in the first half, they shot 1 of 11 from from three point range. Okay, the Bulls at the time I tweeted this out, they were 6 of 18 in the second half, and they clearly had a better second half, right? Offensively, I believe the Bulls ended, what was it, 7 of 19 from three, I think. Let me look at this. Yeah, I believe the Bulls, the Bulls were 7 of 19 from 3-point range in the second half, right? They obviously shot 8 more threes than compared to the first half. And I'm not saying that, that's the reason why they made, 6 more than they did in the first half. But it's just, you have to shoot these shots more. Because at the end of the day, even if you're not a great 3-point shooting team, if you just shoot more threes are going to go down, right? So, better second half, because you shot in the second half a lot more threes, okay? That's important at the end of the day. You shot 8 more compared to the first half. That's important. I think that's extremely important as we continue moving on for the rest of the season. Because, yet again, that first half offensively, you only shot 11 threes, you made 1, and it was 47 points. Not going to cut it. It's just straight up not going to cut it. You have to do better moving forward. So, again, great game defensively. You can't be upset again about the defense. The offense just has to get better. Just straight up. Has to get better. What's going on, Taro King? Good to see you. Yeah. So, overall, good Bulls win. The defense is really starting to carry this team, which I think some people would not have expected that at this point in the season, right? A lot of people were saying that this Bulls defense was going to be problematic, and, DeRozan and Zach, it's always going to be an issue. The defense has been there, man. You can't really complain about this defense whatsoever. So, the defense, I don't want to hear it, right? It's been really, really solid, especially in the past month or so. So this offense better start coming around here, because we're still down here, right? It just has to get better as we continue on throughout the season. It just straight up has to. Yeah. So at the end of the day, good win. You completely just defending this Washington Wizards team into oblivion. They could not get anything that they really wanted to. We saw Kyle Kuzma have a really rough game. Bradley Beal was forced into some tough shots, right? Obviously, they're missing some key players in Porzingis and Monte Morris, but you forced a lot of tough looks for this Wizards team, and no one scored over 20 points. That's good. Good job. And we just need to continue building on this as we move forward, and hopefully make your way into the playoffs. Let's see. Our next game is against Toronto. I want to see who our next opponents are. So we got Toronto, Detroit, and Phoenix. This is a little bit rougher. I do think that Toronto is overall the better team than the Bulls, especially now that they got Jakob Poeltl. But you can definitely win this game against Detroit. That shouldn't be an issue. But that Phoenix game is obviously rough, because Kevin Durant is making his debut and with Phoenix, and we're going to be facing KD. So get ready to face Kevin Durant. And I expect an L then, but a lot of winnable games through March. So let's get on this little win streak right now. Carry this through. You can lose to Phoenix, that's perfectly fine, but then you got to win against Indiana, Detroit, Houston, and then Minnesota after that. So yeah, good stuff. So looking ahead for the Bulls, it's just they got to convert, right? They just straight up have to convert it and not let this slip by, because as we've said all the time, that we've seen this Bulls team slip up, and suddenly their offense is just in the toilet and can't do anything correctly. All right, covered the game pretty much. I want to point out one more thing. I do think Patrick Beverley is having a big effect on this team, not necessarily through his play, but him being that on-court coach that this Bulls team needs. I'm aware that Caruso can be that for this Bulls team. He's done that a lot this season, but he can only do so much. And I feel like Patrick Beverley, because he's been in the league longer, has been in some bigger roles. Having 2 of those guys on the team is a huge help. And, one of the things that I think Beverley does extremely well with all of his teammates is that he does come in and help define the roles for them, right? I think sometimes, players, they kind of get all kind of confused of like, what is my role, right? And if everyone's not bought into their role, it's going to result in issues. So if Patrick Beverley coming in and telling Zach, hey, look, man, we can't, your job here is to just score the ball, right? We need your scoring. That's it. Don't worry about making plays for your teammates, because that's when you're going to get in trouble, right? Just put the ball in the basket. That's all we're asking for, and you do that at elite level. That's role defining, right? If he goes then over to, you know, someone like Alex Caruso and says, look, man, we need you to be a better shooter, but then continue to bring the defense and continue to be the guy that is going to be scrappy and getting his hands in the lanes and stuff. That's valuable, right? That's role defining. So that sort of thing by Beverly, I think, has really helped this team, because at the end of the day, Billy Donovan, I feel like, is kind of like, with his system, I was also kind of confused, like, what was Zach's role? What's DeMar's role, right? That sort of stuff is like, it is kind of confusing at the end of the day. Like, I don't really know who's the 1 and who's the 2 on this team, right? But if at the very least that Beverly can be like, listen, DeRozan, you're the guy that you have to be the playmaker and also be a scorer for this team. But with Zach, you just look to score. That helps. That helps define the roles with this ball club. I think that's extremely important. So Beverly, with his, you know, his defense is obviously incredible. And it's very evident that he is very vocal. But if he is coming in and helping define these roles on this team, that's huge, right? And that's something that if this Bulls team does decide to rebuild, right, I would want Patrick Beverly to come in and be like, all right, Patrick Williams, you're the guy, right? If the Bulls actually go down that rebuilding route, if Patrick Beverly can be like, look, P. Will, you're the guy, you're the number 1 option. You got to be putting up the points every single night. Go out there and be an all-star, right? That's huge, right? That's something that I think it's extremely important to look at moving forward. So I hope that this sort of, you know, role defining has helped this team, and then it stays consistent through the last 20 games, right? If this can stay consistent, then we're looking fine as a team, right? Obviously, it's not perfect, but it will help then going into next season if we decide not to rebuild, which I don't expect us to. It will help this team already get off to a better start, because the roles will be defined with this squad. He communicates on defense. We used to be as a cemetery, so I don't think we were like completely silent on defense. I do think that Caruso has, like, if you listen closely, like, Caruso is yelling consistently, whether he's on the bench or he's in the game. Now, I do think that in general, though, when we're talking about the pick and roll, right, I do think that Vucevic doesn't really talk, right? He doesn't really talk to his guy that is getting screened, and that results in a whole, you know, big miscommunication, and it results in a lot worse, like a lot of, you know, breakdowns defensively, or guys, you know, being sent the wrong way. So I do think that has been an overall issue. But yeah, the team is definitely talking a lot more defensively. You're seeing guys, they're helping in the right spots. That's good to see, and it helps that it truly does help that Beverly is one of those guys that is going to be like, if he sees that you're not talking, he's going to go over to you and say, you better talk next time, or else I'm going to be whooping your know what, because we can't continue this no talking on defense anymore. So yeah, this is overall good to see, and again, it has to continue. These are habits that have to continue to build foundations for then moving forward. What do you think the Bulls need to do differently in terms of development? So this is always going to be very controversial, I feel like, with the Bulls and their development team. I think that the biggest thing, in my opinion, the first and foremost, the thing that needs to change is how they run their offense, right? Throughout the Boylan years, the Fred Hoiberg years, and the Billy Donovan years, the offense hasn't been modern. It just hasn't, right? It truly hasn't been modern. Now, you can argue with Hoiberg, it was a little bit more modern style, but I had issues with his offensive style because he would have an offense that just wasn't really creating anything, right? And you could argue, you know, it's players, you know, lack of good players, but he just didn't really have an offense that was like really like looking at like, yeah, this is overall creating the looks that we want for a squad, right? Boylan was not using his players well correctly whatsoever. Like, he just did not know how to use his players. Like, he was having Thaddeus Young shooting threes. He's having only Lauri Markkanen to take threes and not look to attack the basket. Like, that was just a complete screw up by Jim Boylan and everything combined. With the Billy Donovan, we're posting up Vooch, we're shooting mid-range shots all the time. We don't shoot enough threes. To me, that's huge with development, right? So it's not a shocker to see Lauri Markkanen go off to Utah where they legit only shoot threes and layups, and he's putting up his best season of his career, right? Like, we can talk about development and all that. To me, it's offensive system, right? To me, that's the biggest thing. It's how you develop these guys. It's how you develop their tendencies, right? If we develop guys to not shoot threes because in the offensive system that they were grown with, that they just don't shoot threes, that's going to hurt their development no matter where they go from here on out, right? So I think that's the biggest thing is how you change the player development. It's through a better offensive system, right? Patrick Williams is a 40% three-point shooter. He needs to be taking more than 3.6 threes per game. That's development, right? That's developing tendencies. That's developing shot selection, right? That's all part of development. Now, we can always be talking about, one-on-one coaching, player mentorship, going over film with these sort of guys, off-season training. Like, I'm aware that this is all sort of stuff that we can talk about, but to me, it starts with the biggest part of this development process, which is offensive system, right? That's the biggest issue with the Bulls' development, in my opinion. And it's not a shocker that you see guys go off on different teams because they're just overall in a better offensive system, right? People were pissed off with Wendell Carter Jr. shooting threes on this squad, right? Do y'all remember that? And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if people in my chat right now were some of the people saying Wendell should be shooting threes. I was always one of those people that said, no, Wendell needs to start shooting these threes because he is one of those guys that has to be willing to take those 3-point shots instead of taking those mid-range looks, because he's not supposed to be taking those mid-range looks all the time, right? That's not something that I need from him, right? I was fine with him shooting those threes. I'm aware he wasn't that great of a shooter, but if he suddenly loses confidence because the coaching staff says, hey, don't shoot those threes, he's not going to shoot them anymore, hence he's not going to develop here, right? Like, I don't know why people think that it's like, okay, no, take your time. Don't rush into shooting your 3-point shot. Like, it's all about making sure that they understand how to take those shots in an offensive system, even if they're not fully developed yet, right? That's all important. So for someone like Patrick Williams, I'm concerned with him that he won't start shooting more threes in general because of the offensive system we're in. This Bulls team takes 28 threes per game, which is dead last, and it's easily dead last compared to the Sacramento Kings and Boston Celtics who shoot over 40 threes per game, right? That's an issue. That's the reason why the player development, in my opinion, is more poor than compared to other teams, right? And I hope that the front office is either going to be changing up the player personnel, or Billy Donovan can figure it out and be like, okay, I need to change my ways of coaching, because he's very hell-bent on running a style of offense that is extremely late 90s, early 2000s, and it bothers the heck out of me. Guys won't develop in that offense, right? They're not going to develop into modern-day level players if they're going to be stuck in that sort of offensive system, right? So I do think that it's important to kind of look at. Now, I will say, though, the one person that has been the exception throughout all of this has been Zach, right? Zach has developed into an all-star, and he survived the Hoiberg years, he survived the Boylan years, and he's in a system right now that, to me, isn't exactly perfect for him. I think he should be averaging 9 threes per game, but he averages only 7. I think he should be attacking the paint more, but he doesn't, right? And that's offensive system, right? That's all offensive system. That's not all him. It's offensive system is the reason why that he doesn't, look to shoot these shots, is because he's not in that system to do such a thing. But he also, we have to remember, was in his first 2 years were with Minnesota, right? Or maybe his first 3 years. I honestly don't even remember at this point. But he had years where he wasn't under the Bulls' offensive system, right? His first couple of years, maybe it was even 3 years. Yeah, 3 years, he was in a system that was not, the Bulls, right? And I do think that having that sort of foundation, right, helped him. Then when he comes over to the Bulls, he's looking better, right? Has that foundation already set in his first 3 years. He can then come on to this Bulls team and look just fine because he has that already in place. Like in his third season, he's taking 6.6 threes per game. You see it go down, right, suddenly in his next 2 seasons, which is completely wrong, right? This was not supposed to happen. Then it's gotten back up, you know, which is good, and this is when he officially became an all-star. But now it's at 7.4. This needs to go back up again, right? This needs to skyrocket back up to, at least in my opinion, 8, but I would like 9, right? So to answer your question, that to me is how the Bulls change, right? That's how they change their player development. That's how they make sure that these guys develop correctly. It's a big if, right? I don't think it's gonna happen, and that's the reason why I am concerned with P. Will's development into becoming this sort of all-star caliber player. So I'm sticking with OG Anunoby from here on out with P. Will. At least that's just the way I'm looking at things moving forward. What's good, fam? What's going on, MC Season? Good to see you. Unstoppable. Wow, we know Bill not doing that. Oh yeah, I'm aware that Billy Donovan is not doing that. Now, what the front office can do though is get rid of these guys that are posting up and shooting mid-range and et cetera, right? That's what the front office can do to then force Billy Donovan into having to play a better, more modern style offense. The front office can legit force this to happen. But as we've seen, Billy Donovan in the front office, they have this like connection that is like it's so tight that I don't even think you can take a buzzsaw and cut it, right? That's the reason why I'm concerned moving forward, especially if we rebuild, right? Like, if we go the rebuilding route and then we're trusting Billy Donovan and this front office to rebuild this team and develop these players correctly, I am going to be scared out of my mind that this Bulls team is never ever going to see the light of day ever again, especially with Billy Donovan coaching and him running this sort of very, very 90s style of offense. That's the reason why I'm like, if the front office can go out there and be like, all right, we're going to go out there, we're going to get more modern style players that have already been developed, that are veterans, right? Then Billy really can't have much of a say, right? It's not like he's developing those guys. Those guys are developed, right? That's the reason why I want this team to kind of go that route, which I think they're going to. I just don't know how far they're going to be going into that route, because I do think that they're going to be kind of in the middle, unfortunately. I traded Marlo this offseason and switched Vooch to more pick man on pick and roll. I completely agree with you, Ryan. If they're going to keep Vooch, right, which is still up in the air, I personally would try to either sign and trade Vooch or keep him and then look to trade him later. But I agree. I think DeMar DeRozan needs to get traded. I do. And even if this Bulls team is not looking to rebuild, I still think trading DeMar DeRozan is the best play. Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. And yeah, if you get rid of Vooch's post-ups and make him strictly a pick and roll or pick and pop man, this team looks a lot better. And when I say pick and pop, he needs to be pick and pop into the three-point line and not pick and pop into the mid-range shot, which, by the way, if you're not aware, Nikola Vucevic is taking more mid-range shots than three-point shots this season. And I think if you see that, you should know that that's backwards. That's a big issue, and that should never, ever, ever continue to happen. But here we are in the 90s level offense where Nikola Vucevic is shooting more mid-range shots than three-point shots. Whew. It's a serious issue. With the rumors going on, would you entertain with a trade with Trae Young? So I've had this discussion with a lot of people. For me, Trae Young is not a person that I really want. I think Trae Young's shot selection is also kind of funky. He does jack up those threes. The thing is, though, is that he jacks up threes like he's Steph Curry, and he's not Steph Curry, right? But also he does those shots, like those in-between looks, you know, that are just like, what are we doing, right? And if you're not aware, the Atlanta Hawks, they also don't take threes, right? They're one of the bottom teams in three-point attempts per game. So yes, Trae Young shoots a lot, but there's also stuff in there that's kind of his fault too. My issue with Trae Young is this: I don't think he's an All-NBA player, right? I think that some people have been saying, well, I'd entertain a Zach LaVine for Trae Young swap. And for me, I'm like, look, man, if I'm trading Zach, I'm trading him for younger pieces, and I'm not trading Zach for Trae Young, right? To me, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I think the team, I guess, in a sense, would get better offensively, but I think the team would severely suffer defensively, and suddenly we're going to have to deal with Trae Young trying to be the guy when I don't think he's the guy, right? You could argue that's happening with Zach already. If that's the case, fine. I just don't think it's that much of an upgrade, right? I don't think that there's a big enough difference for me to be like between Zach and Trey that I'm willing to make that swap. Because by the way, if we're doing a Zach for Trey swap, the Bulls have to give up more, right? It's not going to be that we're just going to swap those two players. The Bulls have to give up more because Trae Young's 25. So, in my opinion, it's not worth it unless we're trading DeRozan for him. But that's probably not going to happen. Yeah, I have some serious issues with Trae Young. I also think that because he is so small, that I don't know how long his career is, and his peak of his career is going to last. And that also does concern me because he's a guy that does kind of rely on his quickness, and he's going to be better off compared to Ja Morant because he can shoot the ball. But you know, I do question like how long that quickness is going to keep up with them, right? Because you know, smaller guards they go quicker, right? What's going on, Patrick? Maybe we have a little fire now in the second half. Granted, we have played two teams in the Wemby race. So I don't think Brooklyn's in the Wemby race, by the way. I think Brooklyn is actually looking to make the playoffs, Patrick. They don't have full control of their pick, so there's no reason for them to tank. But yeah, I do think that the Wizards, this is a good win. The Bulls have held two opponents straight to under 90 points. That's good. The problem is the offense, Patrick, which yet again is we scored 102 points tonight. That's not good enough, and we only scored 47 points in the first half. That's just not good enough, right? This number needs to go up, but I'm going to say that, yeah, good job defensively. And if that continues defensively, I'm not going to be too upset, but that offense, man, that offense just has gotta figure itself out and continue on the right path. What about Murray? I love DeJounte Murray. I do think though that he is also one of those players that is kind of that mid-range oriented game. But he has done a little bit better job of extending out to the 3-point line. Which is the reason why I've been saying 2024 free agency, when DeJounte Murray is a free agent and has to go through free agency to get his max contract, I'd be all for him because he is working to get that 3-point shot going. To me, that's huge, right? If he can just, you know, start taking more threes instead of those mid-range looks, I 100% take it, right? Yeah, I'm all for DeJounte Murray coming out to this Bulls team. Yeah, Trae Young is interesting. I feel like that you can kind of tell that there's a big issue with him in Atlanta right now. Obviously, they just fired Nate McMillan. They fired Nate McMillan, which to me was not necessary. I'm not saying the Hawks have played well and that he doesn't deserve blame, but Nate McMillan, I don't think is the issue. I think a big issue is the personnel with that squad, and also Trae Young is a bit of an issue too. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's definitely something I'm going to continue thinking about. For now, I'm not a fan of Trae Young. This could change quickly for me, but for now, it's not something I want to see. We played Brooklyn. I thought we played the Spurs for some reason. No. We played Brooklyn. Yeah, and we blew them out by 44 for some reason. I don't know what happened to Brooklyn this night, but they just for some reason could not score the damn ball. Yeah. But yeah, good defense though. I'm gonna give them that. Should the Bulls look to bring back Pat Bev this offseason? In my opinion, yes. Because if Patrick Beverley, even if he's not playing a lot, like let's say he comes off the bench, right? If Patrick Beverley comes off the bench and this Bulls team just looks overall better, because he's that on-court coach that is a guy that's going to be defining roles, etc., that's extremely valuable. That I think that if, let's say he even asks for like $7 million, you pay him, right? Now the issue, unfortunately, that I'm looking at for this Bulls team moving forward is this. I don't know how much Patrick Beverley is going to be wanting, right? Bulls are going to have their mid-level exception to work with here, and that's going to allow them to re-sign Beverley unless they have to use it on IO, right? Which I don't expect. But if they don't trade DeRozan, right, then they have to use that mid-level exception, and that's something that I'm a little bit concerned about because I would like them to use that mid-level exception on something else. Now, the other thing is that they will have their biannual. So if Patrick Beverley is willing to accept like a $5 million contract, then you use the biannual on him, right? that's not an issue whatsoever. But yeah, I'd look to bring back Patrick Beverley next season, whether you're retooling or rebuilding. I don't care which one it is. I'm fine with either. Bring him back because he's already had a big effect on just defining roles with this team, and that's something that is necessary for this team moving forward. Because Billy Donovan, I don't think is going to be defining roles for this team because he's that coach that isn't willing to go ahead and tell people, okay, this is what you have to do. This is what we want you to be. So yeah, stuff to kind of think about moving forward. So yeah, I bring back Pat Bev. Personally, I would just hope that no team is looking at this like, oh, we can go ahead and snag him. Reminder that Patrick Beverley was making, what was it, $13 million in his previous contract? Never mind. It was I don't even know what it was. Yeah, $13 million. So he was getting paid a decent chunk, right? It's not like this dude is getting paid, nothing, right? He was getting paid a decent chunk. So that's my only concern. I don't think he gets $13 million again. That there's no shot he gets $13 million again. But I could definitely see a team offering him $8 million, right? And I don't know if the Bulls are going to have the money to give that to him unless they use the mid-level, right? Which I would not personally want to do. But that's the reason why I'm saying trade DeRozan, please, because then if you trade DeRozan, you have the cap space to bring him back easily. Reminder, Bulls don't have his bird rights. So yeah. We need Pat back for the culture. Hopefully he could be our Haslam. I don't even think it's culture, honestly. I just think it's just him defining roles, right? I think it's him being that big communicator that this Bulls team needs that's off the court, right? We always talk about communication on the court with this team, and it's like, him talking, and he's a part of that. I just think that there's a lack of communication off the court with this team about what's your role, what are we looking at in film, et cetera, et cetera. Patrick Beverley's that guy is going to be like, I'm telling you your role, right? I'm telling you what you're supposed to be on this team. That's the off-court communication that I think is extremely necessary, for no matter what sort of team it is, right? Championship, like middle of the pack, or rebuilding. You need that, right? And he's been a guy that, because he's been around for so long, he has that bigger sort of voice. Yeah. Pat Bev will play more than Haslam, though. Haslam never plays. Oh, for sure. Patrick Beverley's he's gonna play. Like, he's not just gonna be signed just to sit on the bench, right? He's gonna play. Whether he comes off the bench or not, like, he's gonna be playing. And yeah, if he comes off the bench, I also think that's a valuable asset for the Bulls off the bench. That'd be huge. Because he can legit play with pretty much any lineup, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm hoping that we keep him moving forward. All right, I want to talk to you guys about one more thing, and then I am actually going to end stream pretty quickly here. It is a Sunday, and I got work to do. But there was a play today that kind of was on Bulls Twitter that Bulls fans were upset about, but for me, I wasn't upset about. And I don't know if you guys follow me on Twitter, but yet again, I am getting into it with Bulls Central. And this is just something that I guess I'm just gonna continue to get into it with him. But here we go. Okay. Bulls Central decided to tweet out that he wanted Zach to get on the ground there for a loose ball like he's Dennis Rodman. Okay. Now, if you don't know what play this was in the first half. I'm not exactly sure when it was. It could have been I believe it was the second quarter, but the ball kind of got like ping ponged around, and Zach kind of had it, but then lost it, and then it started rolling. The ball started rolling around, and Bulls Central here, Jamal, wanted Zach to dive on the floor for that ball. Okay, and I saw this, and a lot of people are going to be liking his tweet because he's a dude that has a bigger following. See, this is the stuff that I can't stand. If you're getting paid the max, you should be doing the max. Simple. That's not the case. Okay, I can tell you 1 billion Supermax players will not dive on the floor for this exact same play that we're talking about. Okay, 1 billion Supermax players. And not to mention, I'm guaranteed that a ton of max players we're not going to dive on the floor for a loose ball. Okay, diving on the floor for a loose ball to me is something that should just not happen from a guy like Zach LaVine, right? Or any of the all-stars, honestly, on this roster. These guys cannot be risking that sort of play. right? Diving on the floor and risking injury, in my opinion, is just not worth it. Because if Zach dives on the floor and someone lands on his leg and he twists up his knee, he's out for the season. This bowl season's over, right? Season is probably already over anyway. But either way, you don't want Zach LaVine to get injured, even if you want the rebuild, because you want him to raise his trade value, okay? Zach LaVine, at the end of the day, should not be getting injured, okay? So, for me, at least personally, you can disagree with me on this one. I don't want him diving on the floor. I think that's something that has been ingrained into the Chicago culture that a lot of people love. You know, I do think that Chicago is like a blue-collar type city, that they love the nitty-gritty. They love those blue-collar type workers that are willing to do everything at all costs. And, you know, I don't want to sound privileged, but this is something that I'm like, look, man, when it comes to basketball, I don't need guys to be risking injuries, like a season-long injury for a ball that was kind of loose, right? Like, I don't need guys to do that. Now, if this was a Caruso, or this was Javonte Green, or this is a Patrick Beverly, that's different. Those guys, their role is to legit go on the floor and dive for those loose balls, okay? Like, that's their entire reason why that they're in the NBA, right? They make those sort of hustle plays to go ahead and help and try to help the team in the little ways possible. Because at the end of the day, they know that they can't score the ball like Zach, like DeRozan, like Vooch, right? They don't do that, right? And again, you're not gonna see, the all-stars that score a bunch of points diving on the floor for these sort of loose balls. Okay, you see the guys that are nitty-gritty that are gonna be on the floor and diving for them. That's because that's their role. So I got into it with them, and this is, I want to hear what you guys think. Okay, so giving effort does not mean risking injury, not asking for much. Well, to me, Zach gave effort on the offensive end. So I don't really know what exactly this guy means by effort, but I feel like 27 points in a game is effort, especially on 11-18 shooting. That's just my opinion. But if you're really going to talk about effort, man, I truly don't know what you guys think about effort, right? Because at the end of the day, effort, in my opinion, is it's both ends of the court. It's not just diving on the play, for a loose ball, or hustling and trying to get a ball that's fallen out of bounds, right? Like, what? Come on. So then all of a sudden, he's like, he didn't need to dive. Sorry, I don't know what you said in your first tweet here, but you just said that Zach LaVine should get on the ground like he's Dennis Rodman. Dennis Rodman's value to this team, to that Bulls team, right, was his rebounding and hustle, right? That he wasn't scoring the ball, right? Dennis Rodman he built a career of getting rebounds that you should not get, right? That's completely different. And you just told me that Zach LaVine should be on the ground here getting this loose ball, and then all of a sudden you're saying, well, he didn't need to dive. What? And so he then says this tweet right here, and this to me is when I ripped him apart. Because this to me makes absolutely no sense of why I continue to see this from Bulls fans and also analysts that I'm like, look, man, I understand that people are put in positions of being analysts, and it's because they play the game, etc., etc. But this right here, this tweet right here, or this sentence to me is what blows my mind, okay? It's that soft play mentality that has impacted this team and their inability to maintain leads, okay? This is not the case, okay? The effort has been there. Their mentality, in my opinion, has actually been pretty solid throughout this entire season. Do I think that this team has had soft moments? For sure, right? But at the end of the day, what we've seen from this team, it's not about soft mentality, right? And it's not about lack of effort. What's been happening is that their offense has sucked. If you're telling me that a 6th-rated defensive team has a soft mentality and plays soft, I don't know what to tell you about basketball then. Because clearly then you don't understand the game. You're telling me that the 6th-rated defensive team in the NBA plays soft, has a soft mentality, right? That doesn't add up, in my opinion. So, say what you want, but to me, this is completely wrong by Jamal. I just couldn't say it's completely wrong. So I told him, look, man, no. The reason why this Bulls team has had no ability to maintain leads is because their offense sucks. Opposing team goes on, starts rating threes, you only start taking twos, right? That's the issue, right? And then he's like, this was a defensive play. Asking for effort for loose balls from your max player should not be a controversial topic. Everyone knows their offense is lost and their defense is fine. Okay, well, I'm still going to disagree with you on this part right here. Because you're going to tell me that James Harden is going to be diving on the floor for that loose ball? What about Damian Lillard? Steph Curry? Like, if this was Steph Curry, do you want Steph Curry to be diving on the play for a loose ball like that? No. That's Steph Curry. That's the best shooter we've seen of all time. You don't want him diving on the floor for that. And hell, he does not go and do that. Right? That's not something that happens. Do I think that Zach LaVine has had moments where he has lacked effort? Yes. There was a moment today where he didn't really try for the rebound. He didn't jump for it. He thought he just would have gotten it in his hand. It slipped out of his hand. If he just jumped for it, he would have secured it, right? Yeah, I'm aware. There are times where he lacks effort, but this isn't something that I'm looking at as a lack of effort from him. He can't dive on that. And hell, you know what happened on this play? Denny Avdia got hurt on this play. He took one to the chops, I believe. This is the reason why you don't dive, right? Because your lower half is going to be very exposed when you dive on the floor. And you could also go and hurt someone else's lower half. Kevin Durant got injured because Jimmy Butler fell on the floor, and it was a pretty incidental play, but Jimmy Butler landed on his leg. Kevin Durant missed a month, right? This is the reason why where I'm like, we have to understand that players have to be aware of when to actually dive and when to give out that full effort, because this could legit jeopardize their season, right? And if an all-star is gone, your season's over, right? If Jason Tatum is diving into the stands for a loose ball and then suddenly he's out for 4 to 6 weeks, that jeopardizes their season, right? You can't have that at this point. You have to play smart. So Caruso, yeah, I can live with Caruso going ahead and diving on the floor. Javonte Green, Patrick Beverley, right? These guys can go ahead and dive on the floor for sure. That to me is perfectly fine. But when it comes to the other guys, though, the best players on the team, I'm not asking them to dive on the floor, right? That's not something I want to see, right? So, general effort has been a reason for why they've been blowing leads. Come on now, I disagree. I think if you're talking about effort on the offensive end, where the team doesn't shoot enough threes because they hesitate, they don't drive to the paint enough because they are too lazy to, maybe I can agree with you. But if we're talking about defensive effort, a team that's rated 6th defensively is not going to have lack of effort, right? That's full out effort, okay? And a team that has also been pretty good defensive on the defensive boards this season, that's effort, okay? Now, we've seen a lot of times that the 50-50 balls do get away from this team. That's, I understand that has happened. And sure, maybe you can say that's a lack of effort. But at the end of the day, I also think that's just positioning, right? So if you want to talk about effort with positioning, sure. But I also think that we just see this team where it's a long shot and it's a long rebound. They're just positioned poorly. And it's not like they're not trying for the rebound. They're just in the wrong spots, right? And they gotta make sure that they rebound in the right spots because they just, for some reason, they don't want to. So if that's what you are going to consider lack of effort, sure. But I mean, hell, man, I'm shocked that this is what is the problem with Zach LaVine, is that he's not diving on the floor for a loose ball, because apparently that's what all max players do. That's not the case, okay? Not like I'm willing to bet my money that most of the max players in this league do not dive on the floor for loose balls, right? Especially with a loose ball where there's a bunch of traffic in the area, right? You don't see that, okay? So yeah, this is just something I want to bring up. I want to hear you guys' opinion on it. I've gone at Bull Central many times this season. I've called them out for completely bringing up trades that were drawn up incorrectly that do not work salary-wise, and he still continues to disagree with me on that one, which I know I'm right, by the way. Go ask Bulls GM on Twitter, Ryan Borgia. He's continuously brought up stuff that is like, play through the post, etc., etc. I don't typically respond to that sort of stuff, but he's wrong about that, okay? And now with something like this here, to me, this just kind of shows you where I think the Chicago Bulls fan base is kind of in the wrong mindset. The Bulls fan base will cheer as loud as ever when they see a player dive into the stands for a loose ball, but they won't cheer at all when we see a 3-point shot go in, right? That's not something that they typically cheer for. It's always like, the hard hustle and muscle plays, which I'm aware that Joakim Noah brought that, and that was ingrained into our culture. But, that's not something that every single star should be doing, right? Like, let's just flip this narrative around. Let's say this was Derrick Rose instead, right? Let's say Derrick Rose had the ball, lost it, it's rolling, and instead of him diving on the floor, he decides, okay, I'm not going to dive, right? I've got knee injuries. If I dive here, I'm risking injury, right? I guarantee you everyone would have been totally fine with this, right? If Derrick Rose decided, I'm not going to dive on the floor for this ball, right? I guarantee you everybody in the fan base would be totally fine if Derrick Rose decided not to dive for it. But because it's Zach LaVine and because he's making the max contract, which, by the way, Derrick Rose was making a max contract in his career with the Chicago Bulls. It was just $90 million, and that looks a lot different compared to today, right? No, max contract, okay? It's no different, just different salary cap at the time when the salary cap was like $60 million, okay? Let's just make sure we're consistent. That's all I'm asking for. Because I'll tell you, if Derrick Rose dove for a loose ball, I'd be scared. Because I would not want that whatsoever, right? That's not something I would want to see if Derrick Rose decided that he's going to dive on the floor for a loose ball. No shot. That's not what I want to see whatsoever. So, something to just keep in mind. Watching on the low management, not taking games serious is kind of killing it for me. I would agree with you, like Salty Solution. Like, low management, I think, is a completely different sort of thing, right? Like, Zach had low managed early in the season, but he hasn't done it since, right? It's not like this dude has missed games. He's played every single game since, I believe, that Charlotte, or I don't even know which game it was. But, like, he hasn't missed a game, right? So I don't really know what people are kind of looking at, like, with low management. This Bulls team has been pretty much healthy, except for DeRozan misses some time, right? And obviously Lonzo being out. So, yeah, I don't know, man. Something just to look at. Best ability is availability? Oh, yeah, for sure. I respect Jamal, but he's standing for a square peg in a round hole. He is. I'm willing to say it. Okay? Let's see here. I agree with you. We get mad when opponents shoot a bunch of threes on us, but when the Bulls do it, it's a bad shot. Yeah, that's what Bulls fans think. It's always, oh, we shoot threes, it's bad. Like, it's always so funny hearing Stacey King, like, say, well, like, Buddy Hield will hit a three, and it's just like, wow, what a tough shot. Like, sorry, Buddy Hield takes those shots consistently. That's not just like a shot that just kind of randomly went in. Like, Buddy Hield makes those shots. Like, this is the NBA. Like, they think it's suddenly a tough shot because it's a 3-point shot. If he shot that from mid-range, nothing would have been said, right? That to me is just, it's like, oh man, it's just everything's so backwards with the Bulls fan base. I'm here, just not commenting right now because I'm eating pizza. What's going on, Lot Mob? Hope your Sunday's going well. I am actually going to be ending stream soon, but good to see you. I appreciate you watching. I do sincerely. For someone like you, Lot Mob, I truly appreciate you watching a lot. Yeah, it means a lot. Good win, though, right? The Pat Bev effect. Oh, I truly think Patrick Beverley's had a huge impact on this team. I truly do. I've said this earlier before. I don't know how long you've been watching La Mob, but like him telling Zach, your role is to be an elite scorer. To me, that's huge, right? He's telling Zach LaVine, look, man, we don't need you to play make because when you do play make, it ends up, resulting in turnovers, forced passes that aren't exactly there, right? His job is to score, right? That's all that Zach's job is to do, is score the ball at an elite level, and that's Zach LaVine in 2 straight games has done just that, right? He scored the ball at an elite level, okay? That's good. Like, Patrick Beverley going to each guy and kind of helping them define their role with this team helps this team moving forward. It helps this team build that foundation of like, okay, this is my role. How can I do the best job in this role, right? Because when a player doesn't really know their role and they start doing a little bit too much or not doing enough, right? That's when the team gets in trouble, okay? And Patrick Beverley has come in and done a fantastic job of helping this team define their roles on this roster. And I hope that this continues. I truly do. And I would like for Patrick Beverley to be back next season. Come on, Pat. What's going on, Funk Logic? I think I've seen you before, Funk Logic. I might be mistaken, though. Is this your first time here? But I think I've seen you. I think I've seen that name before. Yeah. But yeah, appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys watching today. Means a lot. Good night watching from Nassau, the Bahamas. Outstanding stream. How about the Celtics versus Sixers game last night? Playoff night. Wow, someone in the Bahamas. Wow, I appreciate that a lot, Charles. Yeah. Thank you for watching the stream. It truly does mean a lot here. But Celtics Sixers game last night. Man, if that Joel Embiid shot counted, oh my god, man, I would have loved for that shot to have counted. But yeah, that's, I don't necessarily know if we're gonna get that sort of matchup come playoff time. I would love to see a Celtics versus 76ers rivalry again. Like, that, in my opinion, would be fantastic. But I don't think we're going to, unfortunately, see that unless the 76ers fall to 4 here. But, man, yeah. Talk about a really good game. Yeah. I've been saying this pretty much since, like, the first third of the season. I think the playoffs this season are going to be fantastic. I think that we're going to have a bunch of really solid first-round matchups that are going to have a bunch of long series, and it's just going to build the tension for, the next series, right? The semifinals. Like, that to me is this to me is going to be a fantastic playoff run. And I'm seriously looking forward to it. I mean, out west, man, like this to me out west is going to be so interesting to watch, because you see the 4 through 12 seeds all are between 29 and 31 losses. Okay. That is ridiculous how close it is. So to me, it's like all these teams out here, they're all kind of grouped up into one, which I think is going to be really interesting to watch here down the stretch. But then in the first round in the West, man, I don't know who's coming out. I truly don't. Like, I can see the Clippers losing to, let's say, Sacramento falls to 4. I can see the Clippers losing to Sacramento. I think that Dallas, if they face, the Memphis Grizzlies first round, I can see the Dallas Mavericks winning that series, even though they might be the lower seed. So to me, it's like these playoffs, man, they're going to be fantastic. And we got a little bit of a taste with that with the Celtics versus Sixers game. I'm loving it, man. As an NBA fan, like, I'm not just a Bulls fan, I'm a huge NBA fan. I'm all for this season. This season has been fantastic. And I know that suddenly there's a big, ginormous super team down here in Phoenix with Kevin Durant going there. But hey, man, like, this, I don't know if that's a guarantee that they win the championship this year, which I think is a good thing. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm really looking forward to it. Oh, yeah, that Clippers versus Kings game. Oh my god, the double overtime game, man. No one can miss a shot in that game. And what was it? Kawhi, I think, had 44 in that one, but then we saw, who was it? It was De'Aaron Fox, and was it Malik Monk, too, that combined for 87? Like, that was crazy stuff. Like, see, this is the reason why. It's like, if we get a Clippers versus Kings first-round matchup, I think that's fantastic. I think that's a great series, and we can't be upset about that as fans of the NBA. I noticed Pat talking to Billy a lot during dead balls too, like having an entire conversation. Find that interesting. Yeah, I've also noticed that, and then I also noticed after the timeout that Patrick Beverley goes up to the players after Billy talks to them, and Pat Bev is like talking to them and giving them little pointers too. So yeah, I don't know exactly what Patrick Beverley and Donovan are talking about. It seems like Patrick Beverley has a huge respect for Billy Donovan, so I don't think there's anything like bad that's going on between those two guys. But I do think that Patrick Beverley might be giving him some pointers, because I think Billy's kind of missing some things. Again, though, this reminder, this entire season is not on Billy. The first thing first is the front office, right? The front office deserves the most blame for this season. I don't want people to be blaming Billy Donovan for like the entire downfall of this season. His defense, the defense with this team has been solid. I'm going to give him credit for that. But when it comes to the reason why this team is suddenly at 28-33, like, the reason why is the front office, right? The front office is the main reason why for this team's downfall for this year. And I think that everyone deserves blame for sure. As I've been blaming Billy Donovan a lot for the 90s level of 90s play style of offense, right? But yeah, to me though, the biggest issue is the front office for sure. Like they've I'm aware that they've been probably, limited in some of the moves that they can make because of the Reinsdorfs, but they could have done better, for sure. Could have done a lot better decisions, and that's something I'm going to stand by. I do think that at the end of the day, it's a Ryan Storefront organization, and we know that a Ryan Storefront organization is going to have troubles. So it is what it is. I've been here before. Thanks for the analysis. Helps me understand the game/tactics. Appreciate that, Funk Logic. I'm glad that you're checking in on the streams a lot. Continuing to bring the analysis on no matter what here. So hope you continue watching. We are having this very conversation in the front office in the office yesterday about the West. It's going to be such a fun playoffs this year. Oh man, I think the West, in my opinion, is going to be the playoffs to seriously watch, because hell, Golden State versus Memphis Grizzlies first round, that is fantastic, right? I do think that unfortunately, whoever does get the 8 seed and faces the Denver Nuggets, that's just going to be the bad matchup. But I'll trade off that for good matchups 2 through 7, right? I won't be upset if the Denver Nuggets sweep the 8 seed. Okay, that's not something that I'm I'll be upset about. But yeah, out West, man, I think 2 through 7, the first round's gonna be incredible, and then obviously then the top 4 teams, whoever moves on, I don't know what the matches are going to be, right? Because I can easily see a 6 seed winning a series, right? And suddenly that changes all the matchups around. So I'm looking forward to it, honestly. Right? Because we could be saying let's say let's just say the playoffs start as is right now. So let's say somehow the Dallas Mavericks beat the Kings, and then the Golden State Warriors beat the Grizzlies. Then suddenly the Dallas Mavericks have home court advantage in the second round of the playoffs, right? That's crazy. Isn't that crazy to think about? But I'm here for it. I would love for that to happen. I do hope that it does happen. I'd be all for it. Now out east, I think that it's going to be interesting to watch the 3-6 matchup and the 4-5 matchup. I think we're getting a Cleveland Cavaliers and Brooklyn Nets or New York Knicks first round matchup, right? I think the Cavs stay at 4 and then they face one of the New York teams. That's still a good matchup, right? I do think the Cavs win that though. But then after that, the top 4 teams in the East, as they duke it out, to me is going to be awesome. I still right now, if you had to ask me, I have the Bucks coming out. I know that Chris Middleton's been very on and off all season, but I just think that Giannis is the best player out of all the teams, right? Of all the players on the top 4 teams. So to me, Bucks have that ability to go all the way here. But obviously the Celtics have been at the top of the Eastern Conference all season. So you can't knock them out just that easily. But I think we're going to get Giannis versus Embiid second round matchup, which I am all for, right? I would love to see that. And then I think if we get that Cleveland versus Celtics matchup, that's going to be a very interesting series to watch, because the Celtics played a little bit smaller. The Cavaliers played bigger, right? So we're going to have Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley guarding, on the front line for the Cavs. And then the Celtics are going to have Robert Williams and Al Horford, right? That's going to be very interesting to watch, because in the playoffs, the game slows down tremendously. I don't think the Celtics are guaranteed, winning that series at all. And I'm all for that, right? I would love to see somehow the Cavaliers beat the 1 seed Celtics. That'd be incredible to watch. Obviously, though, gotta get past the first round, which is not a guarantee. I would still pick Cleveland for now, but if New York starts to, really take off here, that's not a guarantee. Yeah. They should show that game. Should show that game to the Bulls during Phillips to show them what modern day basketball is. Yeah. Clippers versus Kings. Yes. Show that. But also, I think it's more so someone needs to show Billy that game, right? To make Billy change his ways. Giannis is like Wilt Chamberlain. He can just impose his will on every series, no matter who they play and how they play. Oh, yeah. I think Giannis Antetokounmpo is legit the perfect player right now for today's style, even though he doesn't shoot threes, because you can legit use Giannis in so many ways, right? Because on offense, right, he can have the ball in his hands, he can be the screener, right? On defense, he can be that main defender, like that the point of attack defender, but then he can also be the help man, right? So no matter what the play style is for the opposing team, they have Giannis who can adjust to it no matter what the play style is. And to me, that's the biggest weapon to have in a playoff series, is that your star player can legit adapt to both ends of the court at an elite level. Like, I'm not saying that Jason Tatum can't adapt to opponent's play style. Like, he obviously can. The dude's a superstar. But to me, Giannis Antetokounmpo can adapt to any play style at an extreme elite level to the point where I'm like, yeah, this is the reason why Giannis, in my opinion, is going to be my favorite to lead the Bucks out of the Eastern Conference. So it's not a guarantee, obviously, but like, it's going to come down to me about Chris Middleton and his health, because Drew Holiday, man, is having one hell of a season. And if he continues that level of play in the playoffs, and then Chris Middleton becomes Chris Middleton again, the Bucks, to me, have the best combination of their best players in that Eastern Conference. So that's what I would go with. Yep, exactly. Giannis is the puzzle piece that fits anywhere. Yeah, you can legit put Giannis anywhere, and it works perfectly. Yeah, it's a scary thing to think about. But yet again, though, even though I say that, like, there's no guarantee the Bucks will win the championship, which is what I love, right? We can have Giannis Antetokounmpo in the league, but we can still have parity, right? It's not like they're dominating the league, and this is fantastic in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this moving forward with the playoffs. Bulls might be in the playoffs. We'll see. If I had to guess, they're, like, at least the way I look at things right now, they're going to make the play-in tournament. They're going to lose. But that could change. If they get a 7 or 8 seed, I think then they make the playoffs. But I don't, as of right now, that's a little bit too far ahead for me to say such a thing. He are on a 4-game losing streak, though, so that's something to keep in mind with this team. All right. I do have to go, though, guys. I do apologize that I am going to cut the stream short here. But thank you guys so much for watching on a Sunday. I know Sundays are always busy for everybody. But I appreciate you guys watching tonight. Whatever it is, it's evening, right? If you would not mind, I would appreciate it if you would hit the like button on the stream. It helps me out tremendously with the channel. If you're new to the channel, I like Bulls content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for Bulls content for the rest of the season. Bulls, I believe, play the Raptors on Tuesday. I should be able to stream then, so I'm going to plan on a stream for Tuesday. And we'll see if the Bulls can defeat the Raptors and continue this winning streak with Patrick Beverley. Because clearly the Patrick Beverley effect is in full effect right now. Thank you guys again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace, y'all.